Hey you. Yes, I mean you, dear listener. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this Warui Deshou podcast. We're so happy to have the pleasure of your company today. If you've listened to us before and like our show, you might be wondering how you could support us, since we won't take your money. This podcast will continue to be free, but if you'd like to show your appreciation, please consider leaving us a rating and review on iTunes, as those help our discoverability. If you don't use iTunes, that's fine too. You can follow us and like and share our content on SoundCloud, YouTube, and Twitter. Additionally, we love getting your feedback, positive or negative. Tweet us at Warui Deshou or email us at waruideshou@gmail.com. Whether or not it gets read on the show, I can assure you, we all read every tweet and email you send us. And once again, dear listener, we thank you so much. Now please, enjoy the show.
Warui Deshou.
So darling, darling, stand by me. Oh, stand by me.
Hello, everyone, ladies, gentlemen, NBs. Welcome to Warui Deshou's Stream of Thought, our episodic weekly podcast where we talk about currently airing shows and what we think of them. Get your French toast ready, because we are down to Franxx. Always down to Franxx, baby. You know how it is. I am the Subtle Doctor, and with me is pumpkin carving genius and a printer ruiner, Shadon. Welcome.
Hello. I have a question for you, Doc. Who would
Yes.
I be, the Beast or the Prince?
Can you be Prince Beast?
Beast Prince? Prince Beast?
Mr. Beast proper? I think that's an album name of a band.
Quite possibly. Well, depends on who you ask, I suppose, but I'm sure that, plenty of people... In fact, post your comments, post your opinions. Am I a Beast or a Prince? Throw it in there in the chat, folks. Throw it in there, in the comments section of YouTube, Twitter, SoundCloud, or the local bulletin board at your missionary or church. Go for it. Let me know.
I'd love to see that on the local bulletin board in a church. Just things addressing your existential status as Beast or Prince. Yes, I want to know. We need to do a poll.
Including a very goofy picture of me. Probably me completely wrecked out of my face on tanked up on booze. That's definitely Beast, by the way.
If you don't deserve... No, wait a minute. How does the meme go? Damn it. If you can't appreciate me at my Shadon drunken face, then you don't deserve me at my Shadon handsome face.
Oh god, that's more real than I like. Ah!
All right. Shall we get started breaking down lucky number 13?
Yes, let's go.
The Beast and the Prince. Manono to Oji-sama. As I butcher that Japanese pronunciation.
Well, that's our entire audience in Japan, all two of them gone.
They're so mad.
Thank you for listening, folks, but, well, you stuck with us for that long, but now Doc's ruined it.
Sorry. Let me try again. Let me give it another... Alright. I'm in nothing if not persistent. No. Mamano to Oji-sama.
We're now down to negative viewers in Japan.
Just to keep pushing them down. Alright. I'll try to rescue it here by talking briefly about the creatives involved with the Beast and the Prince here. Episode direction, according to Wikipedia, was done by one Manabu Okamoto. Now, Okamoto has a brief CV. It's one of these. Probably plucked from Idolmaster Cinderella Girls by the director. Was involved with that as first season and second season, doing some episode direction. This person's... The main thing that they've worked on appears to be ending animations. They have credits storyboarding and directing ending animations in Idolmaster, in ReZero, and in Akame ga Kill.
I have to say that if that's the case, then that's highly ironic given how little animation there actually is in the ending of this particular episode. Although that being said, there's an entirely valid reason for it. I just find that amusing.
Like, Okamoto directed your favorite anime of last year, Shadon.
What, really?
Gamers.
Oh. Fuck you. You absolute bastard. You know I don't know anything about the people who make this kind of stuff. You had me on high hopes then to, say, oh, it's one of my favourite guys, the guy who did Scum's Wish. But no, he had to pick Gamers, the uninspired romantic comedy that features product placement from Arc System Works. Fucking great. Fan-bloody-tastic. Excuse me while I, twirl in delight.
Well, don't pirouette just yet, because they also did storyboards for episodes 1, 3, 6, 8, and 11 of Gamers. Oh, wait a minute. No, I didn't pronounce the title right. It's Gamers. There's an exclamation point there, so you can't say Gamers. You have to say Gamers.
There's something about how you say that every time you do, I think that, my frontal lobes shrink every time you do that. If you keep saying it eventually, they'll just turn into, the size of, peas. And then I'll just just no, please don't. Stop.
Well, for the sake of this podcast, I will cease that.
Someone's going to soundboard that and send that to me in a YouTube video. It's going to Gamers, as pronounced by Doc, 10 hours long.
You're right. Just 10 hours of Gamers.
I want that to be your message tone from now so it can remind you every time you receive one
good God.
Of the thing that you have done this day.
I wouldn't do that to myself. Are you kidding me? I wouldn't even do that to Naotaka Hayashi, the screenwriter for this episode, and the previous episode, and several prior episodes, including ones we didn't really care for, such as 2. But this person is the head writer. One of the head writers. So this is them grabbing the steering wheel and saying, "No, back off. I got this. Let me take over. Let me take over the good ship Franxx before it runs aground."
Look, right, I know I fucks up. I fucks up really hard. Just give me a second chance, goddammit. I can actually write something good if you just let me do it.
This is what I had in mind for weeks, I promise.
I'll be fair to him. He did, actually. He has done good work now. So, I forgive you. Sort of. Not really.
Hayashi-san, you have gained Shadon's forgiveness. Be grateful for what you have accomplished this day.
And it took him 13 episodes to do it. Wow. I could have got my tax returns sent back in that time.
You still feeling good about Noriko Takao? She storyboarded this episode, and storyboarded episode 5. The one spoken about in hushed tones on this podcast.
Nothing hushed about it. That was the best episode of this entire show so far.
It was so good.
It was bloody brilliant. And again, there's certain shades of her storyboarding in this. Certain things that, with lighting in particular, and framing, that really do help sell what's going on with the characters. So, Noriko, I'm going to up my previous offer. I will now buy you 2 pints instead of the 1. That's still on the table. I'm not making any jokes here. If I ever bump into her and she wants to cash in those 2 pints of whatever her favourite beer is, or liquor, or spirit, I'm not fussy here, you can have whatever you like, then I will gladly cough up the cash and put it where my mouth is, so to speak.
She worked with Hayashi-san on episode 5 as well. He was the writer. So, building off a good rapport, perhaps, here. I found that the pacing wasn't, quite as crackling. Maybe I'm just misremembering. Perhaps it was not the pacing, but just the tension. I didn't really feel a lot of tension this episode. It's not to say I didn't like it.
Kind of a given, though, given that this is a flashback,
For sure.
I mean, we know, when Hero and Zero Two, or past Hero and Zero Two, go on their little adventure here, that it can't remain that way forever. It was going to come to an end one way or another. So, I see where you're coming from there, absolutely. But that being said, if you want my overall opinion on this episode before we even get into it, and I think this really sums up the entire series in general, is that when they've got the character interplay going just between 2 people, and they really focus on it and properly build into it, it's really, really solid and really, really well executed. I actually felt genuine emotion at the stuff that was happening in this episode. Not all of it, mind you. Some of it was a bit amateur, I'll be honest, and we'll get to it. No, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's fucking Dr. Franxx again. I mean, even when he ruins this in so many ways, but anyway.
Whoa, regenerating flesh.
Oh, fuck that guy. But anyway, but that being said, a lot of the stuff that surrounds Franxx, like apart from the character stuff, like, you know, the gender politics and the world building or the general lack thereof, the weaker aspects of the show, like, that's also present in this episode as well, in my opinion. So, it's a microcosm of the whole show at its best, and also, paradoxically, a little bit at its worst. Just a little bit, because the gender politics stuff, thankfully, is now kind of been pushed aside for the time being. No doubt it'll come back up and rear its fucking ugly head at some point. So, who knows?
I mean, yeah, that's an interesting question, is how much they want to lean into that again. Do they want to try to resolve anything or change anything?
Honestly, in hindsight, like, with the way this is going, like, the compelling arc now is between Zero, Two, and Hero. It's about, you know, them coming to a realization and about the world and about each other and their history and what it means for their future. And sure, it's been there and done that. I mean, the Elf and Lead comparisons only get stronger, surprisingly enough. Mm-hmm. I mean, good grief, like, honestly, I'm literally surprised at no point did, like, tiny little 02 just pass by, you know, Lucy and just high-five her in the corridor. It wouldn't, if that had happened as an outtake, it wouldn't have surprised me.
Please stop bringing this show up.
Say that to Franxx. Franxx is responsible for doing this.
If you're going to bring it up, and you're going to make us talk about Elf and Lead, you have to at least put the bando drop in when I say bando.
It
must be done. Classic. The gods demand it.
Fine, I'll do it. I will do it for you, Doc, because you've asked for it. But
don't put the requests of the divine on my doorstep. I'm telling you, this is Pod Divinity is making a request of thee.
Yeah,
better follow through.
I'll do it.
Through. So you know, part of me wonders whether or not, like, all the sex stuff that we were, I feel like, shotgun blasted with in the beginning, like, is it going to turn out to just be kind of like window dressing?
It feels very perfunctory.
We just called this thing, you know, something sexual. We just put the pilots in these positions.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and of course, by doing that, of course, whether or not they make a judgment about it in the narrative of the show, like, they can't not take a position on it when it's in the world in the show, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just introducing it says a thing.
Yeah, exactly.
The question is whether they're okay with that, or they're going to say something else, or if it's complete, or just what is going to happen with all that stuff.
Yeah. It honestly feels just like it's a tax-on thing now in hindsight, because it's not really informed a lot of the character relationships too deeply.
No.
It kind of sort of did in the boys x girls thing, but that just felt more like sitcom stuff rather than any genuine evaluation. A lot of people took genuine umbrage with the conclusions of that, which is, you know, girls like, no, don't worry about what the boys think. We'll let them, you know, do what they want. If they want to, you know, leer at us and all that and look at us in that way.
Yeah, just a little. Not
just, yeah. And the boys are like, no, we've got to protect the girls because they're frail and wispy and all that. And
yeah.
And, you know, as everyone's saying that, you know, it just cuts to an advert break of a 1950s nuclear family eating moon pie because that's the era it fucking comes from.
Moon pie. Yeah, it's pretty, like, what's the word I'm looking for?
Archaic?
Yeah, essentialist and status quo-y.
And now also seemingly unnecessary.
I know.
Yeah, even the sexual stuff, like in the cockpits and stuff, feels like it's just tacked on in hindsight. I mean, again, I'm going to make the comparison because it's from the same studio. With Kill la Kill, at least, like, you know, the whole clothes thing and the lack of wearing clothes was actually addressed throughout the show's run pretty much until the end.
Man,
it was a continuous thread, dare I say. Yeah, I went there. You hate me now, don't you?
You did it.
You hate me.
I do.
But you love me, really.
Yes, indeed. That is the... So, like, I never had this feeling with Kill la Kill. I never was like, man, boy, I wonder if they know what they're doing. Sure doesn't fucking seem like it. But I've had it for so long with this show. Like, a Kill la Kill never felt adrift. It always felt tightly bound to the things that it wanted to accomplish.
Yeah, pretty much.
The show has felt adrift for the majority of its run so far.
Mm-hmm. I've certainly had my fair share of complaints. I mean, we've done, 16 hours nearly on this, if not more. 60, like...
Jesus.
Yeah, I know, right? Good Christ! What I could have done in the meantime. Nah, I kid.
Please don't talk about that. It make me depressed.
Wow.
We could be talking about Ancient Mage's Bride.
Yeah, we could have been talking about A Place Farther in the Universe, or Violet Evergarden, or any of the other great things that have been coming out recently. Okay, all right. Though, look, right. Let's actually talk about this episode. Let's talk about the fact that it is actually, I think, genuinely quite good. Okay,
so the episode begins.
Last time on Darling in the Franxx, heroes getting choked.
Yes, the nerve alert motif is happening, and the Nana is saying, "Oh no, their consciousnesses are going to merge."
No, they're not. Hero doesn't have a consciousness. He's he's a brain dead dimwit. He doesn't have a consciousness to merge with. Like, if 02 pops into his head, it's just going to be like a white space. There's going to be nothing there.
Like a home of the future.
Pretty
a white room.
Pretty much, yeah.
So that's a thing. And you have some interesting shots, and from there you enter the place that most of this episode remains at, a sort of co-flashback, and the flashback is accompanied by some sort of retro VHS inspired static effects.
I really hope no one watches Franxx 13 on a CRT. You will think it's packing up.
I mean, I guess it's meant to imply like that the memories were cut, and they're being repasted or restored into place, and at times does it do? Sometimes it does the crackling just to transition between scenes, and other times it does it to transition between narrators.
Yep, and also a particularly pivotal moment of dialogue later on.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The second syllable of the D word is popped out.
Yes. Something I want to bring up here is, again, another use of lighting. Franxx, I find, so far, like, one of the things it's been consistently good at, apart from such things as music, is that it uses lighting really well to convey characters' moods, also their place in life as well, like, literally living in a dark time. So, one of the opening shots here, in case you haven't seen it, is we now see 02 as a child, who was briefly seen at the end of the last episode, but now we get proper shots of her, and she's just a little impish girl who's a stick figure, not much meat to her, just... seeing her like this, like, part of me is a little confused because I can't fathom how she could have changed from that to the way she is that we've seen the rest of the show, where she's, articulate, confident, fully grown.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah. Has the color of human skin.
Yeah. Like, she's completely feral. She can't even speak. Like, she can speak, but she certainly doesn't know language, nor can she actually read. So, can't read, can't write, can't understand what people are saying. She's just an animal.
And then she's paid a visit from Morpheus. And she downloads it from the Matrix, the ability to speak and read and do maths and cook.
And to steal, men's clothes.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And that's totally on a floppy disk. But why I bring up here is, like, seeing her, like, for the first time as a child, like, properly in this episode, it did break my heart a little bit.
Oh my god, it was, there's some imagery in this one that's, it's hard to watch at times, for sure.
So, some of the things that happen to 02 in this, the actual punishment and physical pain she's put through, I was not okay with, simply because it felt a bit contrived and cliche how it came across and why it was being done, as in, fucked if I know why it was being done.
Yeah, what's the end game with these horrible experiments? What's the end game of holding the poor child's book aloft and making her jump to try to grab it?
Yeah.
What's the point of that bullshit?
Yeah, we'll get to that later, but to come back to my previous point here, the shots we see of her in this opening bit is, because again, we don't have an OP in this episode. The credits play over the opening scenes. We see her room.
Let me offer some speculation that they're going to do a second OP, but it's not ready.
Possibly, but then again, they've just changed the OP to swap around the partners. So that, then again, maybe they did that because they genuinely thought, well, maybe we should put this tiny little detail in for the one time it'll matter. Who knows? But what I would say, though, is that one of these opening shots, though, is of Zero Two's room as a child, and her room is, well, I'm going to be moving house fairly soon, for those who are not in the know. And when I leave, and I will not have to live there anymore, it will look like what Zero Two's room currently looks like right now. The only things that she has in there are a mirror, a sink, and a toilet. There is no bed, no creature comforts, no lighting apart from the windows. It's completely plain. This is something that you would use if, you were a dictator to put prisoners in. And maybe dirty up a little bit. She's a fucking kid. She's barely 7 or something. And, when you're that age, you've got a nice room to live in, you've got yourself a nice comfy bed, got posters, all these little nice things that you take for granted. And she's living in, well, a prison cell, basically. The only thing that's missing is the bars. But what I really liked, to come back to the idea of the lighting here, is that in this shot, which is mostly black and white, we can just barely make her out huddled in the corner in darkness as there are streams of light that come in over the top of her head. There's an earlier scene with her and present hero who's like projecting himself, it's like his projection of his psyche into that scene, where he's similarly sat down next to her and his head's in light and hers is in shadow. This is a lot like the small bit I mentioned in the previous episode where Hero was similarly sat in a intersecting shaft of darkness and light. And it actually will become important again when Hero actually rescues her from this cell, but we'll get to that soon. But yeah, lighting in Franxx is used so well. Like, little moments, little scenes like this. They have the technical guys, the storyboarders, Noriko, and all the other people who are working on this that aren't actually putting pen to paper are doing their damnedest to make this work. It's just unfortunate that Hayashi and, the other script monkeys behind this, I don't even like, do they just like sit around with a giant bong and just share it? So it's like, bro, I got ideas. Fucks if I know, because honestly, sometimes I think this would be such an amazing show if they broke. Oh, fuck me. But I really do think sometimes this show would be spectacular if it strips away a lot of the gristle that's been shackled onto it, like the stuff we mentioned before. But can't fault the direction or the technical elements. Once again, there's meaning from every single part of this.
So as you say, she's been locked up. We find young, very, very young 02, and we see her near the end of her first stint in a prison type situation. She's got a room, but at least it has some toys, and the wall is painted. A nighttime type mural with stars is on there, and she's given a book.
Birds in pairs.
Hey, there you go. And she's given a book, a picture book called "The Beast and the Prince," by whoever is taking care of her, and we don't even see what sort of clothes they're wearing, what the form was, so we don't know who that is.
No.
It's probably not a Nier Automata reject.
No.
It might be Papa. It might be Franxx himself. Who can say?
I doubt it's Franxx himself.
It can't be Franxx himself based on how he reacted later, but...
Yeah. The couple of other things about this room, the walls and the toys are completely shredded. When I said before that 02 was feral at this point in her life, I was not joking.
They clearly give her a lot of things, and then she just doesn't know how to interact with them the way a human would.
No, she's even shackled to the wall as well. Yeah. So read into that what you will. Before we get onto the book, I just need to say though as well, even before we see what happens later with the more obvious torture scenes that are a bit rubbish in my opinion, for reasons I'll point out later, you can still infer a lot from just what's happened, how she is now. Chained to the wall, tearing at the wallpaper, tearing at the toys, ripping them to shreds. She tries to eat the book when given to her because she thinks it's food. That's what she thinks it is. So you can, she's only a kid. You can obviously infer from that this is neglect that's led us to be this way.
Well, I think it's I took a slightly different read on that. Although, there are some things, obviously you can point to, scarring around her ankles and wrists and stuff like that. And then the overt experimentation. And even the pitiful way she acts toward Hero initially. Those things illustrate the neglect and the abuse, but the way I took the beginning stuff was that and it was, to me, like, confirmed later parts of the episode that we're not dealing with a human child here. We're dealing with a Klaxosaur child that has been humanized. Like, we laughed at that last time because that was the theory that I thought was the case. But there is a line in this episode, I wrote it down. Dr. Franxx, I believe, said that he's talking about 02 and says that this specimen is leagues better than all of them past. There's never been one that's developed such a human form before.
Mm-hmm.
And the blood is blue. There's no speaking. She can't speak, despite having presumably been around other people for
that's true.
some length of time, previously. So, like, I think, I think we can reasonably infer that she is other than human.
Well, the horns were the big giveaway, that's for sure.
Well, yeah, no,
I'm kidding.
Like,
I'm kidding,
we could, it wasn't like, you might have been thinking earlier that she began as human, but was twisted from there. And I think that that's actually, like, depending on where they want to go thematically, I think it does make sense to have two different kinds of beings come together. If this were more specifically and explicitly about Klaxosaurs versus humans, rather than about kind of the mistrust that the parasites probably feel towards society and all the mystery and the questions, like, it would be kind of cool to have, your Beauty and the Beast, your Prince and the Beast.
You did it! You did it! You said
scenario.
it! You said it!
I did.
You said it. I mean, I was going to make a Tales as Old as Time reference to the book here, but now you've gone and done it. You've gone and fucking done it. Oh, shit.
I beat my own guest. But yeah, I mean, you can see how that might kind of fit and resonate better than if she was human but tweaked a little bit. I think that's like, if you want the love between two different species or two different beings, I don't know, it seems to mean more when they are really different like that.
To be honest, to me, I think the Klaxosaur element really doesn't matter, because we haven't seen any, like, behavior from the Klaxosaurs that we can relate to. They're just it's like I said before, they're just a force of nature. They're just pests. I think it's more about the idea of, they said what is human many times throughout the show, like 02 said it, and she herself feels that she's not human, and there is a truth to that.
Yeah, I mean, look at how she's so she is Klaxosaur, but look at how she's responded. I mean, she's violently, viciously trying to be human by any means necessary. Like, she is much more relatable. Like, we see, and she is relatable, and because she, I guess, is trying to be human. And she just serves as an interesting contrast to the other Klaxosaurs. I don't think that her being human is something that she's comparing to being a Klaxosaur, but rather just to being feral. I think that she's more concerned about having a consciousness and a free will, rather than being treated like an animal like she is in this. And the point I was going to make was that when she compares herself to being human, like I said before, like, what does it mean to be that? Like, when she confronted Ichigo. Well, look at the people who are handling her. The woman who's throttling the book around, like, teasing her, bullying her. The way that Franxx talks about her. The actual stuff they do to her. These are the people who aren't fucking human. Not her. Yeah, no, for sure. Yes. Man is the real monster. No.
Franxx went, from just being a fucking sexual deviant who just harasses women in the workplace to just... I'll get to it later. There's a comparison to another character that that I want to make.
I do agree with you that there hasn't been enough, that there could be more done to service, like, the idea that here you have a non-human being falling in love with another human. Like, it's just kind of happening. And yeah, I mean, I think that much more work can be done, or could have been done, to make it interwoven with the rest of the story and themes, and make it hit harder. Yeah.
So, okay, let's talk about the Beast and the Prince. Now, when this book is introduced to 02 in this room by the mystery mother-like person,
the blue and black blob person
Slenderman.
versus Commando.
But when this book is introduced, because Zero Two tries to eat it, this person takes the book from her, puts it down, opens it, and shows her a picture. And the picture that is turned to is of a princess with horns. And I have to say, I really like the art in the book, by the way. It looks fantastic. It does look like a classical children's book. It's great. I have a big problem with this book in this episode, though.
Oh.
I have a huge, huge problem with it. Because the title for alone should probably have clued you in, given we've also mentioned that this is primarily about Zero Two and Hero. That this book is allegorical almost to a T for their current situation. It's if it was like a transparent overlay, you could put it over their own scenario and it would match almost note for note, just with contextual changes. And that to me comes off as incredibly contrived, that this random person would just hand Zero Two the book that would one day marry up with her own life so exactly. That's a phenomenal coincidence.
It is. It is when you look at things a certain way, right? I mean, it's like we're reverse engineering from.
Well, that's what we're doing.
We're reverse engineering from the time that she was so kind of viscerally impacted, all the way back to the origin of the item that caused that to happen. Whereas in the flow of a person's life, it does happen that way. But a lot of other things happen and you're shown a lot of other things. So, I mean, I totally feel what you're saying.
Yeah.
I absolutely do. I think there are anime directors that do this sort of thing much better. I'm going to invoke the name of one of my personal favorites, the master, Kunihiko. All right, let me make sure I'm pronouncing it right. God damn it.
We don't want to go further into negative figures on the Japanese viewers, Doc.
I know the last name. I just want to get the first name right. I did mispronounce. So, Kunihiko Ikuhara, his most recent TV show, Yorikuma Arashi, is basically all about... Well, I shouldn't say all about. A big part of the story relates back to an illustrated kid's book that a character pulls out. But it's pulled out very early in the story, episode 1, maybe episode 2. And is constantly referred back to throughout the whole show. Yeah. And kind of meaning the different, it gets interpreted a little bit differently at times, and meanings of it change or are shown in different ways. So it just feels better.
It's organically woven in.
Yeah, it feels more, yes, organically. It feels part of the world as opposed to, like you said, just kind of chucked in there.
Yeah. Not unlike Kokoro's book from the beach episode, I should note.
What book is that? I don't even... One day, perhaps that'll come back.
I mean, come on. This picture book that is given to Zero Two, the princess has horns. This is so on the nose.
Yeah.
It's not you could... People say, when you start referring to classical works of fiction, hell, if they wanted to go one better, they might have probably wanted to reference Mary Shelley's Frankenstein. There would have been a thing that you could have thrown in there, although admittedly it's not a picture book. By the by, actually, one thing this episode does really well is call back small details from previous episodes. You might recall in the previous episode that Zero Two was looking for a picture book in the library. Because... Yeah,
that's true.
That is the very first thing that she, received as a gift from someone. Something that she actually started learning from. This is technically the beginning of her education, I would say. But to come back to the point I was going to make, though, this is a tale that's been crafted for in-universe. It's not like an existing piece of work. Even if they had used Frankenstein, as I suggested, or anything else from classical literature, any classic fairy tale, it would still feel a bit cliche. And again, cliche is not necessarily inherently bad, but this is just a different kind of thing where, no, it's literally just a copy-pasta. That's what it is. And I thought... I like the idea behind it, but I can't get past the fact that it's just too convenient. And even now, I can imagine, well, what about that whole maybe it was all planned thing? And I'm like, really? Really? Are we going to strain incredulity now that they're going to have this specific fucking tale given to the impish child with horns, who then somehow meets, the prince of her dreams, and then they come back and... No! Tolerate that shit long enough. It's bollocks!
I'll not have it.
It's absolute bollocks. Alright, I'm done with that, yes. But otherwise, I like the idea of the story, and as I say, the art's fantastic in it.
Yeah. So I guess her looking for it previously doesn't, that's not enough justification for you, for the way they kind of brought it in.
Again, like the fact that the story so thoroughly overlays her current situation, both past and present, it's contrived out of the backside, is what it is.
Yeah, I can't disagree there. Yet again, this is another thing that, if only it was alluded to before, right? I feel like it would feel better.
You know what I would have done? If I were writing this, again, here we go, armchair director and all that, but let me just pitch this idea. What if the gift that Hero gave back to 02, you know, in that episode where they exchanged gifts, was not the mirror, but a copy of that book, and she couldn't remember it, but it triggered memories in her. After all, Hero himself was reading a book, why not do a book exchange? Here, maybe you'll like this, I found this in the library. And she's like, well, this seems familiar, I don't know. Just a thought, you know, you could have woven it in earlier than that, I'd reckon.
And then she says, do you think I have a child's reading level? And smashes him in the head with it.
I would actually really enjoy 02 hitting him over the head with a book. Or literally throwing the book at him. That would be amazing. I would watch that.
So the next scene we have is Ichigo and Hiro. They're together in the garden. And the Lord said it was a good... No.
No! I mean, I made the allegory about 02 being, you know, the devil in God's domain. Oh, fuck.
Right.
That's so true. I have to say, by the way, one small thing. Ichigo is holding a bunny. And again, when bringing back the gifts episode, she had a bunny then. So, again, nice callback.
Yeah, Goro did say she has always liked stuffed animals since she was a kid.
It's consistent, so nice portrayal.
So, she is upset and asks Hiro, am I weird? Because she's still crying, unlike the other kids their age who were mostly gone, totally emotionless.
Yeah, and Hiro then says, yes, you're totally weird and freakish, get out of my sight. Also, your buddy's stupid and you're a dog.
And thus the show ended. So he says, like, it's okay to be weird because we're special, because we have these low numbers, because low numbers equate to higher aptitude when it comes to being a parasite. And he suggests to help feel comfortable with uniqueness if she would like to have a name. He gave himself a name already, of course, and so he names her Ichigo and himself Hiro, and you know, stands on that scene that we saw from a different perspective early on in the show, of Hiro as sort of Adam in the garden, naming all God's creatures.
Yeah.
Pointing down and naming all the kids, including Mitsuru.
Yep, you're sleepy, you're grumpy, you're dark.
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Hey!
I'll take that moniker.
I am sleepy. And dopey as well in equal measure.
So yeah, so you should feel like it's okay to be different. This will help you feel this way. And of course, the near automata extras come in and say, no, you can't do this. And Hiro, we're shown for the first time here, and many times this episode, he questions authority, and he's the only child that will do that. And this becomes a problem for him. They specifically say his sensitivity could begin to infect the other children.
Well, they dealt with that right good later on, because he, honestly, earlier on in this show's run, his sensitivity was fucking non-existent.
They Men in Blacked it out of him.
He could have found Bambi's mother dying in the fucking forest and he'd have ignored her.
Do the little what do they call the device in the Men in Black?
The neuralizer.
Neuralizer, yes. Continually use that on him, and you will squeeze the feelings right out of him.
And the brain cells. and the sentient thought.
Hiro, the amoeba in human form.
He literally just has 2 ping pong balls inside the cavity that is his skull. You shake him around a little bit, just like, you know, rattling one of those, you know, gumball machines.
So we've talked about Dr. Franxx believing that in 002 you have a very exceptional specimen has developed such a human form unlike all the others, and he's, you know, doing horrible things to the poor girl.
This scene annoyed me. Now here's the thing, right? It's meant to annoy you, it's meant to make you angry as the viewer, you know, at what he's doing to her. I have a couple of problems with its conception though and how it's executed, because This will probably, I feel fairly certain this will be out before our Yasmin Nightcast, but in Yasmin, the villain, spoilers, was it Dokuro? Yes, it is Dokuro. I got it right. That's like the one time I've actually got it right first go, as opposed to all the other times I actually did it in the Yasmin Nightcast, where I didn't remember his fucking name. But the point I'm getting at here is that Dokuro in that show, he was a cruel, evil, wretched being who treated other people like his pawns to be disposed of and manipulated and experimented on, like when he turned them on cyborgs at his whim. And he did it for no other reason than because he was a dickhead who was just basically got really pissed that the Yataman of old beat him so consistently. So he went and, leveled up and came back. I didn't mind him that though, because he literally was a cartoon villain. That's who he was. And yet with Franxx here, he's cackling and laughing at this and enjoying every second of it in such a way that it honestly took me out of it. Because this show, dare I mention, is supposedly meant to be taken seriously. Although it's given us plenty of reason not to at various times. And bear in mind, this is a war that they're trying to win against these Klaxosaurs, supposedly. Although, again, I really don't have any idea of how big the scale is of this Klaxosaur problem. Have any plantations been destroyed by the Klaxosaurs previously? The fucks if I know. So that's another problem. But Franxx here, cackling like this, he does become a cartoon villain.
Oh, really?
It really feels like that's how he acts. He's just enjoying this for the sake of the fact that he's just simply evil, and that's not compelling to me. Not in a show like this.
So I didn't take it necessarily as evil. To me, it just sort of reeked of really generic scientific sociopathy.
Mad scientist. Yeah.
Well, not even mad. Just totally amoral. Being immoral, but not be just lacking this moral dimension. Science for science sake, push ahead with the experiments. Here we have the specimen. I'm gonna do all these things that may or may not hurt the person, but he's not even thinking of her pain. He's totally lacks empathy. He's pushing forward with progress, with science, with the war effort. That's what it felt like to me, much more so than he's enjoying the suffering of her or something like that.
The tone of his voice, though, certainly conveyed that he was enjoying it. Maybe not necessarily enjoying the suffering.
He's excited. I think he's excited at the discovery, is how the eye took it.
I don't know, something read really, really false about this portrayal here, because the thing is about evil in fictions, as I've said before, there needs to be let me start again. Characters aren't evil, per se, in fiction. There is no real good or evil force in fiction. It's just people with their own motivations. And, as we've said many times, it's okay for there to be a character who does awful things, if at least we can understand the logic behind them. But what's happening here to Zero Two, right? Then, Touch. I can infer from that, they want to test how capable she would be as a pistol as an adult, because to some extent, although it's not been explicitly shown to great detail, if you get hurt in the Franxx, you get hurt for real. Like the Matrix.
That's what Morpheus told me.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. You're right. So I get
right
that.
After he showed me how to wear sunglasses without any ear pieces.
And long trench coats. Don't forget those.
You just got to squeeze your cheeks and your forehead down as tight as possible to hold the sunglasses without the ear straps.
I hope there are, varifocals in the Matrix. That'd be really annoying if you wore them all the time and just kept walking out of buildings really quickly. But yeah, honestly, the way this came across to me made him feel cartoonish. It doesn't feel like he has a compelling reason to be acting the way he does. He's honestly not too far off the level of Dr. Eggman. That's how it felt to me. And as I say, I get the idea of why they're doing this. Although it also runs contrary to the whole thought of, taking Zero Two to the Grand Crevasse. That's not seemingly a state. I don't fucking know. But why won't this show explain anything? Why?
Yeah. I feel like that's a new development but I mean, fuck if I know. That's just my guess.
I'm so confused. So, I don't mind. Well, I do mind, but I don't mind narratively that this scene exists, seeing her getting tortured. And I understand the reasons behind it, but having Franxx just cackle and swirl his robo-tash like this, I was not particularly down with that. That's the other big bugbear I had with this episode. One thing I'll point out very quickly, though, that I don't know if I've said before, but I feel it should be stated, and I don't know if it'll be relevant or not. Franxx has a horn on his head as well. Only one, but he has one. So I'm thinking, is it possible that he himself is a Klaxosaur human hybrid and he's not a cyborg, but so much the mask that he wears is just to cover that side of him up? Like, if you take that off, will he be similarly red and disfigured underneath?
Doesn't this come up in Metal Gear? Isn't there a person with a horn?
No, that is literally Venom Snake. That's what I mentioned last time.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's him. So, yeah, I don't know. I just was not down with the way he's portrayed here, because he's just like, like, I'm enjoying this. This is amazing. I'm like, Franxx, like, if you're a genuine cold-hearted motherfucker scientist, I would actually have preferred that. If he was just like, you know, being completely and utterly uncaring and not actually laughing or showing any emotions. It's just, if he had said nothing and just watched, that would have been something. But, nah, I wasn't down with it.
Okay, so Hiro ends up seeing 02, observes the horrible behavior happening to her, ends up asking some questions like, who is she? What's happening?
How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop?
Right, this, all the important questions of human existence. And everyone just tells him, mate, these are on a need-to-know basis, and you don't need to know. One of those need-to-know basis things.
Oh my god.
And also, fun detail, at a certain point, when Mitsuru is leaving to get his injection, again, a scene that we have seen from another perspective, he makes the promise to Hiro, and then they shake on it, and their handshake, which they're crossing pinkies, looks like a heart.
Aw, I have a different thing that I want to say about that scene, just as a funny observation. I thought, that's neat in all this scene, this is really cute and everything, but there are no guardrails on that walkway. If either of them step one little bit to the left, they're in that pool, and it's probably ice cold, and I don't see a life ring around there. Maybe that's where all the parasites were disappearing to in the garden. They were just falling into that fucking pond.
Just a Dark Souls-like setup there with the catwalk. It easily fall off.
Either that or it was Pennywise from It. Hey, Hiro, you want your boat back?
Oh, God. So one day, of course, you know, Hiro tries to sneak and find 02, but he's caught, and he gets frustrated and says, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to get in there and I'm going to get to her. He's seen where her room is, or at least a room that she's frequently in. So one day, he procures what appears to be like a strobe light. And climbs up a tree and chucks it through her window.
It has to be said, this is on the nose perhaps, but this is literally the first time a light has entered her life. I'm not even kidding.
Oh, brother.
Am I wrong?
No. Totally unplugged, that light.
Oh,
nothing, unshining, dead, a dead light. And so he's done this, a thing that triggers no alarms in the building.
Of course not.
No one is nearby to hear the sound.
There's no security camera in 02's room. You'd think there'd be.
I mean, so I feel like that at this point, it's entirely fair to point at the show and say, okay, come on, stretching the bounds of believability. Because at this point, Franxx has not kind of picked out Squad 13 to be an experimental group. You know, in the past, I could say, like, well, they're being allowed this latitude to gather data. You know, Franxx has them as their special project. Well, this is long before that, and 02 is an asset that they covet. And so, yeah, very weird that this just a tiny boy is able to just break in to the second or third floor of this building and take 02. In the beginning, she doesn't want to go, of course, because every human since the first that has been in her life has treated her very poorly. And so she is reticent, but she is convinced by the tears in the eyes of Hiro.
Yeah.
And saying that sentence out loud makes me feel dirty inside.
Oh, dear. There's a couple of things I'd say about this. I thought the scene was actually really quite brilliant. First off, 02, like, the Hiro's act of breaking in, I made the, you know, a light entering a life thing, and I can't even say that half as a joke, really, because it is so accurate. It's actually kind of too on the nose, which was the complaint I made before about,
Yes.
the book. But on a more positive note, this is the first time that someone's actually reached into her heart and treated her normally. That's the whole act of breaking in as metaphor. Getting in to, see her as a person and then connecting with her through a shared emotion that everyone can recognise, the acts of crying, Animals cry out in pain, and that is something you can recognise. So that's what causes us to connect. And then the lighting. 02 is hunkered in the shadows at the back of the room against the wall, terrified initially of Hero. But then once he starts weeping and holding out his hand saying, "Come on, let's go," she steps out from the darkness and into the light for conceivably the first time in a sense. So if this was Noriko's storyboarding here at work doing this, and it must have been, it has to have been.
Yeah.
10 out of 10. This is such a brilliant load of little details consecutively texturing the scene, getting a tapestry going and meaning to help what otherwise is a fairly simple act have so much emotion behind it.
No, totally. Not something I picked up on when I watched it the first time, but I'll go back and look at that. Because I do, respect Takao's ability here and feel like, yes, this is all pretty intentional on her part.
Hey, I don't buy pints for no one. Just anyone,
Yeah, exactly.
I buy it for cool people. The offer is legit.
Indeed.
I will fucking do it if ever I get the chance.
So refresh my memory. How did they get down from the building? They just jump out the window?
They try to climb down the
climb
tree,
out, right?
And then they fall.
The limb breaks.
Yeah.
And so yes, he's coaxed her out the window with his tears, and they are fleeing from the garden, from the lab, and
Hero's knocked out, by the way, by the fall. So Zero's
in the
actually
beginning, she's carrying him.
She's dragging him.
And then he wakes up face first in snow.
Yeah.
At some point, and there's a really kind of cute scene where she bites him, and
after eating a rat. I love this because there's just a little insert shot of 3 rats.
The family
looking.
They're just mortified.
Oh fuck! They killed Pete.
Dad, no.
We will have our rat vengeance. I just found that insert really, really funny. Oh, I don't even know if it was intentional.
It was great. Yes, the Royal Rat Vanguard there.
Yeah,
holding up its end of the bargain.
I have to say, Impish Feral 02 is also really cute. Like just the expression on her face when she's got that little rat tail popping out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what did I do? I was hungry.
Yeah, and so she's bitten his hand and releases it upon getting head pats because it brings back the soothing memory of the original person.
Nah. Hero's watched anime. He knows that all women in anime are vulnerable to head pats.
The head pats, right? The Sachi method of praise.
Well, she does have pink hair.
It's true. It's all connected.
Yes.
And so there's a really nice insert song that plays.
Oh.
During one of these scenes where they're talking. I think he's reading her the book.
Mm-hmm.
And just a lovely, lovely song.
Just to backtrack very briefly, Hero does technically name 02 here by pointing out the name on her collar, which is actually a shackle around her ankle.
Yeah, her ankle binder bracelet thing.
Yeah, and when you remember that Hero has his own collar on, because that's where all their numbers are, like lost property things, just in case they end up somewhere, like please return here if found. But it pretty much contextualized very bluntly that they are slaves. I don't think there's any real way around it. Sure, they're not like, tending fields or anything here, but they are fighting in battles that supposedly could get them killed. I mean,
sure.
It would help if the show had conveyed that better up until this point. But that is true, though. They could very much potentially die at any point. They're fighting a war they barely understand for spurious reasons. And at the end of it all, as we've seen, the kids before they even get out of the garden are likely to be sent off to, be turned into, soy paste or whatever they, use. And then there's no indication that once they do, get to a certain age, they'll be allowed to become adults and, retire from piloting Franxxes. They are slaves. They are, in fact, it's time for me to reference another book, one of my favourite things to do. one of the classic dystopian fiction novels that technically is actually more of a utopian novel, but it's kind of like an expose on how utopias can be really, really awful, is Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. And in Brave New World, there are castes, and every single person in Brave New World is decanted from birth. They're test tube babies, not too dissimilar from the kids in Franxx. But the castes start from Alpha and go down to Epsilon, with Alphas being, the super intelligent, super beautiful, perfect humans, perfect people. And then you have the Epsilons, who are stunted dwarves. They can barely speak, but they have enough technical acumen to do the lowly menial jobs that no one would do if they were an Alpha or even a Beta. So they do, for example, like cleaning and maintenance work on all the, nitty-gritty elements and all the workings of the society. And that's not too dissimilar from what we've got here, because the kids are genetically reared to be this way. They're having injections for a yellow blood cell count. They've only been taught what they need to know in order to perform their function. And once that function is exhausted, be it because, they simply, they die in combat, or because they get too old, that's it. No one cares about them. They're gone. Who gives a fuck? So, literally, slaves. Simple as that.
100%. Yeah, don't even have to... There's nothing more to be said.
Does that not also, unfortunately, really horribly recontextualize the word plantation? I wish I had thought of that.
Listen, it's so true.
I wish I had thought of that.
I've had problems with this since the beginning.
I know, it could have been something else.
It could have.
Greenhouse?
I know. This is, I feel that this is simply a lost in translation issue. We'll just go with that. Lack of historical context on the part of the creators, possibly.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a thing that's happening at a couple different moments. I caught two. There might have been a third, and I just have no idea, or at least only a very faint idea of what's actually happening. And it cuts to kind of a box, like you have letterboxing on top and bottom. So the screen size, there's a black box around the animation around the screen is smaller. And you see a feather falling out of the sky?
The Jian.
Is this... Okay, this is meant to symbolize, like, here we have the male and the female Jian starting to fly together.
Also from the text of the actual book, which is in the ending. Because there's a mention of a feather in that as well.
Oh my.
Again, really, really on the nose, but I'm allowing the feather if only because this is not... strictly speaking, an objective view of what happened. It is them, mind melding in Strelizion that, well, at this point in time, 02 is, trying to choke a bitch, shall we say. No, literally. And Hero's like, I can't breathe. So, the fact that it's actually as clear as it is certainly something.
So, the automatons find the two hiding kids, of course. Eventually, you knew this had to happen. At one point, I think they dive in a lake. And that's them dead. In the snowy blizzard.
Yeah.
But the poor kids are like sleeping outside in the frozen. It's really rough. But they get caught, of course. And
just to rewind, there's a couple of small bits between 02 and Hero that I think should be noted as well.
Sure.
So, again, small details here. Throughout the episode, Hero's been showing that he gets rewarded for supposedly being a good boy. Like when you go to the dentist and you get a sticker after, you suck it up and outline, sort of filling out for your cavity. And he gets given sweets. And he's taking these sweets with him when he's taking 02 out. And so he gives her one. And he says, say ah, pops in her mouth, and when she starts licking it, she's like, I was like, but the feels were so strong, like...
That was a very well done read. I guess is the right way to put that read. The sound uttered by the voice actor was, it was very, very effective.
But, if you want to know where we've seen that before, and this is something I spied on a Discord thread, so shout-outs to the Darling In The Franxx sub-channel here that I spied this from, because I wouldn't have spied this myself. Cast your mind back to episode 2, I think it was, and the dinner scene.
Do I have to?
Well, I think it might be two, it might be a little later, but it's certainly one of the earlier episodes. Do you recall how 02 sat down next to Hero and said, say ah, and handed him,
Oh yeah, that's episode 2.
Well, what just happened here? See? She's remembering things like, and little habits, even if she can't explicitly remember the person she's done it with, or has been shown it by. So again, nice small callback here. And after the fall in the lake, Hero is tending to 02's wounds because she's got like a scrape. And I found this surprisingly funny, and I couldn't help myself laughing at this, that he was literally licking her knee, because that's where she's bleeding from. I mean, what, is he trying to get all, like, the blueberry center out, like, all those little, like, gumballs you can get? I don't know. It felt a bit weird, but 02 intones that as, like, because he's reading the book again, and it's the prince, kneeling to offer his hand in marriage. And she's kind of, like, getting this together now. But there is, of course, the pivotal moment when she tries to intone to him for as best she can, is that you and me, the Beast and the Prince? And will that be us someday getting married? And he's like, yeah, sure, we'll be together forever. You will be my and then, of course... my darkest hour, the Megadeth song. Yes.
For some reason, they cut that syllable out.
Well, because it's meant to, it's exactly what it is. So yeah, it turns out that 02's shtick for calling people darling came from Hero in the first place, which is actually giving rise to a new complaint I'll come up with in a minute, but let me just formulate that while I say something else.
Boy of Destiny, Hero.
Yeah,
they're bound by the red string of fate. It is him. He's the darling from back then.
Yeah. All the little, idioms that she uses, all the little quirks that she's got, a lot of them came from him, annoyingly. I mean, you could read it. You could read into that. Say like again, like so much of this is being taken away from her own agency. Like even in the past, before she met Hero in the present day, it's the complaint I said in the previous stream of thought, where she's leaning on him and not the other way around. But I'm more forgiving him in this instance because it literally is the entire situation. She certainly wasn't escaping on her own. That's for sure. I mean, she's superhuman strong as we see previously, but she's only like 8 at best, so that's fine. But by God, I nearly had waterworks of my own when he says that, and she looks at him and she just bursts out into tears.
Yeah, they made a real connection right there.
Yeah, do you want to know what this reminded me of? The anime that this evokes a memory of for me, and why it evokes it. Well, let's talk about a good anime briefly. A very good anime, Erased.
Okay.
Do you remember when Hinazuki visited Sasuru's place with his mum, and he just had a normal family evening? They had, she was bathed, she was looked after, and they had a proper slap-up meal. And I will never forget this scene because it honestly broke my heart. Like, without saying anything, at that dinner scene, when this plate of warm food, delicious food, is set out before her, Hinazuki, this abused girl, burst into tears. And the thing I inferred from that, and the thing I inferred from this similarly, is that even if she couldn't voice the words for it because she's only very young, she understood for a moment then what it felt like to be treated normally, to be treated like a human being, to be loved and cared about. Even if she couldn't express it in words, she knew what was right in front of her and what she had been denied for so long. And then there it is, and the emotion just, dam bursts. That's it. Shaden's heart pulses again very briefly before it turns back into a black lump of coal. And it happened here. 02, even though she can't... I mean, Hinazuki could actually speak. 02 can't. She just goes, ow? Yeah, oh, I don't know. I can't do the voice properly. I mean, credit, by the way, to whoever is doing the voice for 02, because it did convey that sense of, like someone who's never actually been educated a day in her life, and also still being childlike, but also being cute.
Totally, yeah, like I said, very effective.
But, she can't even voice the words for this, but Burst says just recognizing that, feral as she is, there's a human heart in there that can understand what she's got here right now that's so precious to her, and also what she's been denied previously. And honestly, it broke my fucking heart to see that. This is the shit I wish the show did all the time. If it just cut the gristle away and focused on this story between these two. Like I said, just cut the rest of the characters out entirely. Make it just be a super robot pairing with those two. then I would have so much less to complain about. But yeah, I love that moment. Sometimes, you don't need to have characters to explicitly spell out their feelings and their emotions. Sometimes just simple acts, weeping and crying, for example, can tell you so much more.
Yeah, it's really good, to see. I mean, they have a lot of time together, and they kind of get the general idea of how each other is feeling and what the other one wants. But that moment to see, the veil was lifted and the intention of one heart, got to another, and words didn't get in the way. This sort of pure connection happening, and it was really beautiful. I really did appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And then they're torn apart almost immediately thereafter.
Yeah.
And at one point, Hiro overheard them saying that he was expendable. 02, of course, is the prize pony. She's the one that they want to keep around, and the other one is entirely expendable should he prove to get in the way.
Arguably, you could say that about his role in the anime so far, certainly of how people have felt about him. Fuck that guy, let's watch 02 instead. She's the real thing to care about.
Right. So, but thankfully for him, he just gets the butt of a gun to the head, excuse me.
Do you reckon that was the head trauma that made him into an idiot and not the actual mind-scrambling machine that follows in a bit?
Well, they do have a little... perhaps. one of them did the trick, and the other one just killed his emotions.
Oh, yeah.
02, for her part, she's having, I would say, about 30% of this flashback, and Hiro gets about 70. And
understandable, given she couldn't really contextualize what was going on. I mean,
it's true. But she, of course, like him, I don't know if she's had it erased or she just doesn't remember it clearly.
No, she was in the machine as well.
Okay, so they both get their memories erased of what had happened. Hiro clearly gets his memory erased well beyond the incident in question. The kidnapping, running away. He doesn't remember a promise he made with Mitsuru. He doesn't remember many things.
Nope. There is even an insert shot of without words, of Mitsuru seeing Hiro and then bursting into tears himself as he... Mm-hmm. It's again a retelling of the scene we saw before. Between him and her, when he says he forgot the promise.
And perhaps this is just the machine affecting different species differently, but it's funny that Hiro can remember nothing, but 02 can remember enough such that she has now a burning desire to become human because she remembers a person helping her or being in her life or something. She knows the Darling from back then. Whereas Hiro forgot not only Darling from back then, he forgot he knew her, he forgot she existed, the kidnapping, he forgot the promise he made with Mitsuru. It was quite effective, the erasing on him.
Maybe they were using Hiro's mind to mine bitcoins. Maybe that's why his head is so scrambled. They just gave her the regular treatment when he got the full buff and shine, and they used it to make cryptocurrency. It would explain why he's such a dimwit half the time.
It's as good an explanation as any I've got.
Uh-huh.
But will it be promoted by YouTube virtual idols? That's the question.
I reckon Kizuna AI would enjoy Darling in the Franxx.
I
reckon she would.
Probably.
I could see what her review of it. Fucking great.
Yes. Fuck you.
That's what she says when Dr. Franxx appears on screen.
Exactly. Yes. No, please. So, Delphinium, I think, brings them back, jolts them back to reality. The spirit, the evil spirit of 02 is no longer choking Hiro.
What a shame.
But the minds have melded. They merged, yes. At least for a moment. And it was that consciousness merger that allowed them to gain back their memories. At least Hiro. 02 may have gotten some, but Hiro, it all came back to him.
Yeah.
Because he remembered that she was the little girl with the picture book.
Yeah. Going back to Delphinium briefly, this is such a brief shot, but I couldn't believe it when I saw it. Delphinium actually loses an arm tackling Strelizia, which is in tiger form. And I was like, The fuck? Are you telling me that Delphinium can be blown the fuck up by Cthulhu Klaxosaur, and that Strelitzia can, get battering rammed by another, but one sideways rugby football tackle, like she was pitching for the NFL, that's the thing that causes the arm to go? We'll have to wait and see. But, come on, are the Franxx indestructible, or are they made out of crepe paper? What the fuck?
There's no in between.
No, there really isn't. But I do actually like the implication that this shows, by the way, which is that they've not simply... Strelitzia's not been standing around, it's gone into tiger form, and they've been trying to restrain it as Zero Two has gone feral and taken Hero for the ride while doing it. So that was a neat small detail, but I really wanted some expounding on that. Fuck's sake, come on.
And that's kind of what happens in the episode. That is it. Once the characters have that realization, they're both crying, and Zero Two turns to look back at Hero, and I guess she believes him because of, once again, his tears.
Yeah.
That's it. I can't talk about Hero's tears anymore.
No one can. I'll talk about Zero Two's tears, though. Could you ever, prior to this point, have imagined her crying?
That's a really good point.
I can't! It doesn't compute. If you said to me before this episode, oh, there'll be a scene of Zero Two crying, I'd be like, you are full of shit. No way. No way. Zero Two is too cold, too hard as nails to, be weeping tears at any point. Well, I suppose it's kind of apt that the last time we see her, apart from in the brief mind machine wiping thing, is of her crying as a child, and then when we come back to her as an adult, she's crying then. So... that is the episode, though, and, well, where do things go from here, I wonder, because they now know. The way this is going to play out now is that I said before that it's fairly obvious at some point the characters are going to rebel against Papa, Ape, and the rest. That's going to happen. That is going to happen.
They have their reason now, I think.
Yeah, and everyone's going to follow Hero on this. I mean, Ichigo has got his back on this.
I mean, I guess she does. I'm curious. There was a startling lack of Ichigo in this episode. Not enough Ichigo.
No, but we at least got her as a kid and then briefly as an adult. Actually, you've just raised a good point, though. Do you reckon she's going to pull an Alto Saitomi and actually fight with, the bad guys briefly? Because she doesn't want to break away from the orders? This could lead into the Delphinium Strelitzia fight I mentioned. I hope it happens.
Possibly. I mean, I see her being conflicted. I could see it going... You could do something interesting either way. You could have her briefly kind of clinging on to normalcy, because change is hard, right? Going against everything that you've grown up believing and been taught before she, sides with the people that she cares about. Or you could have her immediately doing that and taking on Alpha 9.
I told you they're going to of course they're going to fight against each other. The Nines are going to fight our heroes, because they're going to be the...
You're right.
Can you imagine, the Franxx is run by the likes of the cookie cutter kids from 26 trying to fight our heroes' Franxxes? Not a chance. Not a chance in God's green earth are they going to be able to take him on. No, you're going to have to send in the professionals for this, and that's where the Nines are going to come in. So we're going to
super elite.
They're like the Royal Guards in the Emperor's Throne Room from Star Wars. They're those kind of mooks.
The red. God. So, yeah, I mean, overall, what are your qualitative impressions? How do you evaluate this one? If you had to put it in a nice, neat little capsule.
Well, it's as good as the last episode, in my opinion. As I've said, I think that there are certain antecedent elements to this, certain things surrounding the core emotional part of this, which is about Zero Two and Hero's first meeting and how they have a relationship that blooms from that and then is stolen from them, ripped out from them, literally. But the things I said before, with the whole idea of the book, which, again, I get where they're going with it, but it's way too on the nose. It's way too contrived to feel organic. It kind of took me out of the whole proceedings. I mean, I've said it before, literally it overlays so perfectly with their story, right down to the fact that the princess has horns, that it's just pushing it a little bit in my mind. And then there's the stuff with Franxx, being, Doc's a fucking Eggman, or Doc's a Claw from Inspector Gadget, or like any really, really over the top cartoon villain for a show that does not demand or need that, in my opinion.
Hand me 02. Bring her to me. Gadget. Get me the parasites.
Ladies and gentlemen, this has been Darling in the Franxx episode 13. Thank you. No. That was fucking terrifying. Please never do that to me again. Like, Jesus Christ, Doc, if your kids ever disobey you in any way, just pull that voice on them and they will never step out of line again. Like, you haven't done your homework? Like, right. Okay. But, one final thing I want to say, though, as well, which ties back into the complaints I made at the end of the last report, and I kind of just came up with it here and now, but it feels in some way like the way that the story of the Beast and the Prince is framed, though, is that it's the prince doing all the hard work for helping the princess out. Like, the only thing that she offers him in return is her unconditional love. And that's kind of what we've got right now with Hero and 02. And I again just have to echo my complaint from last time, like, this needs to be a bit more two-way. The more we seem to learn about 02, the less special she feels, because so much of, like, the whole thing of her calling Hero darling, that was something he gave to her in the first place. Which is a problem, in my opinion. And, you know, the small detail of, like, you know, say, that thing from then, that's a problem as well, because that's, again, something that she seemingly did on her own, but she was just repeating verbatim what was given to her by him. And certainly, you know, there are elements of her personality that are unique to her, like with what she did in the Boys X Girls episode, for example. And also, you know, the little dance thing she did when she was going through the security gates. They're all still there, and they're all still her, but in some way it almost feels like the more layers we peel away from her, the less interesting she gets. And that's mostly Hero's fault, annoyingly enough. It's a problem. And this would be better, in my opinion, if either A, they hadn't had Hero be the original darling in the first place, because again, this is all like, you know, star-crossed lovers contrived. It's destiny almost. I mean, the book itself is a fairy tale, and this...
Brought to you by Bungie.
Imagine if Franxx was a, you know, like a loot box driven game. Oh god. I got the legendary Strelitzia. What did you get? Oh, I got Pitoshi's chef skin. He's wearing a little baker's hat.
Oh, motherfucker. This show is not unlike a recent Destiny game in that much ballyhooed hype surrounding it coming into its initial release. A lot of people talking about it early on. No, I don't really see too many people talking about it.
I have to say though, Doc, I actually checked on Crunchyroll. Currently looking at it right now, The Beast and the Prince on Crunchyroll's rating system has 3,459 votes. The previous episode, if I just click on it, 2004. So, in some way, this is very anecdotal. I wouldn't take it as, you know, a true measure of the show's numbers. I mean, the only people who have that are the guys behind Crunchyroll. So, Miles, if you're listening, I know you're out there, mate. You know, give us some figures. I am a data analyst by trade. I'll make you a nice graph out of it. But if you look at that, you could potentially take it to mean that this episode has brought more people back. People are now interested in it again. Or rather, the previous one did, and now it's brought them back to, you know, actually come and watch this.
I think, yeah, a lot of people probably watch and don't vote, I would say.
But think of the people who do, though. That's, this is not just, you know, this is just folks in general. It's not just 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, 5s. Again, I'm not going to say, like, you know, it's anything conclusive. I'm not going to try and infer too much causality from it. Mm-hmm. But if people were to say to me, I really didn't care about Darling in the Franxx, but hearing about these episodes kind of got me back into it, and I'm glad I've got this far, I'd see that for sure. I would get that. And the Destiny thing is actually more appropriate because Destiny is a game that's centered around its end game where it gets interesting. So right. Funny how that's happening here.
Getting ramping up to that is very perfunctory.
Yeah.
So by my click here, it is the 5th most popular anime on Crunchyroll, ahead of such heavy hitters as currently airing Black Clover and Boruto, you know, son of Naruto. So,
Wow.
there you
They
go.
took all day thinking of that name, didn't they?
I've always thought it was a hilarious name. It like demands being mispronounced. Boruto. I don't know. My mind works in funny ways.
I hope that show's good because there's a very obvious joke you can make at his expense.
Sure. I've liked what I've seen of it. I think I've seen very little of it, but it's nicely animated. When I watched parts of it last year. We're not here to talk about that. We're going to talk about this show, Franxx, and you are going to rate it out of 5.
I will. I'm going to give it 3.5, mice caught in a snowfield out of 5. The half being the one that's 0 to 8.
Okay, very good.
It's the same rating as I gave the previous episode for pretty much the exact same reasons. In fact, were this show labeled or run differently, I would argue this is actually a 2-parter. Depending on your broadcast standards, this I would say it should be called The Beast and the Prince. It should be called The Garden Where It All Began Part 2.
Right.
Because it really does feel like it's the same, it's one after the other.
Yes. If I had to encapsulate my feelings on this episode, I would say that I liked it. It was fine. I was not in love with it, even by the standards of this show. I don't know I don't know if I'm just being a victim of, I watched it at a bad time or what, but for whatever reason, it didn't get me excited. Perhaps I'm just more cynical and cautious about getting excited about the show.
Isn't that my job?
But the previous episode 12, I did enjoy more than this one. I don't know if it's just because I have thought about the show a lot, and a lot of what we see here kind of feels like it was meant to be revealing, but it really wasn't. There's some new stuff, but
Dr. Franxx is a shithead. Who would have thought? Truly, a revelation for the ages. It's like when Moses came down from the fucking Mount Sinai and had his stone tablet. Thou shalt call Dr. Franxx a dick.
And we refer to at least 3 scenes that we'd already seen before.
That's true.
And there's milling the kids around, and the kids are disappearing, and the naming and the numbers on the call, all that sort of stuff. I feel like, okay, we kind of knew. 02's plight was all very new. I thought, like you, in a lot of ways it could have been executed better, but I was fine with it. Just the facts of it. I am like you, looking forward to seeing what fallout this has in the present day world of Franxx. So I'm going to give this episode 3 kawaii chibi girls who are red out of 5.
Is that the first time that I have ever rated an episode of anything higher than you?
Surely there was one other time during MMO Junkie.
I genuinely don't know.
I think that there's once, possibly.
But wow, it's a rare it's a rare
Someone's
occasion.
Gonna have to go back into the archives for that one.
Yeah, I really should be graphing this, but yeah, that is that is a rare thing that I like in episode more than you, because I tend to be very, my standards are high, folks, in case you hadn't noticed. I come down on stuff like a ton of bricks. More often than not, because I feel very annoyed at what seem like very simplistic errors. But also it takes a lot to really, really blow me away. I mean, when MMO Junkie was at its best, it still wasn't quite a 5 out of 5, whatever that's worth. But that being said, I'm at least again grateful that we've got consistently good episodes back to back, finally, in this goddamn show. I mean, it took half the season, half the show's run to actually get to this point. But we've got it. So that's something. But at this point, with hindsight, I can see how they've used the little elements the say that thing, Mitsuru, having a more pronounced role with his promise with Hero and that being referenced, the picture book, a lot of lamp shading here, a lot of foreshadowing is set up, but so much of it feels a lot like bloat. The gender politics stuff, I mean, even disregarding how badly it's handled, it's not really relevant regardless if it was good or not. It's certainly not relevant to the arcs of the characters.
There's something you said earlier that just does not sit well with me. And not because I think that you're wrong, but because I think that you're right. When you talk about 02 becoming less and less special, less and less interesting, more and more the product of
Hero's own
shitty dudes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, not just Hero, but the lab, as it were. Yeah, I don't enjoy that aspect of looking at this at all.
No.
I would... Yeah, it makes it hard to sort of... I mean, because I don't feel like it's... I mean, it sounds silly to be like, I want 02 to be more unique and take hold of her own agency some more, when it's like, amongst the group that she's in, she's incredibly unique. And she has a big, outsized personality.
I think it has to be said, actually, comes to think of it, that as much as I have complained in this about, that 02 has got less interesting, Hero has been absent for a very long time from her life. A lot of who she is still down to her as a person. I
guess, or down to kind of ideas the lab put in her head. I don't
know.
But
that's kind of being chipped away a little bit as well. So, yeah. I don't know. This is the thing, like, I totally get the idea of the Manic Pixie Dream Girl thing. And again, this is even more flattering now to, the show's target audience. That you two, can get involved in giving a girl her own agency and all that, and she'll love you forever. Like, in fact, you know what? I've just realised, a common complaint with a lot of fairy tales, like Sleepy Beauty, for example, is that once the whole, arc of the hero, usually the guy, is accomplished, like when he wakes Sleepy Beauty up, for example, or Cinderella, that's it, they're betrothed forever. But who's to say that should be the case? Like, why should the female person in the fairy tale be obligated to this person who's come along and saved her? Just like in a lifetime. So, I mean, gratitude is welcome, certainly. Like, slaying the dragon in Sleepy Beauty is no small task. That's a Dark Souls boss right there in Disney form and in classic, fairy tale form. But there's no obligation for to suddenly hook up with them and stay with them forever. And that's often what's been said a lot in this show by 02. We'll be together forever. It does feel more and more fairy tale like the more I think about it. And the book is, the Beast and the Prince has kind of brought that into sharp focus. But, I wouldn't even mind her hooking up with Hero or, having this kind of relationship with him if there was some return on that, something that she offered him that wasn't strictly just about him piloting the Franxx. A thing that doesn't even matter anymore. That's not been brought up or been an issue once since it was resolved in episode 6. So it really is turning into a fairy tale for better and worse. And oh fuck! Even when I'm happy about an episode, it makes me angry.
The things she is bringing to the group and kind of her way of being that doesn't feel like inspired by or due to Hero is her like morbid, we're all gonna die.
Oh, great.
Everyone but me is gonna die sort of attitude because of her life experience. She fought with a lot of different dudes against a lot of different Klaxosaurs before Hero came back into the picture. So, yeah, I feel like, she had those nice memories interlaced with those awful ones, but I think she's probably still pretty fucked up generally.
Yeah. I don't know. I just think it would be more true to life and also more compelling if there was something that she was giving to Hero specifically. Some problem, some fault of his, some weakness of his, so that, they were leaning on each other.
Yeah.
If you want to make the bird comparison to this bird is flying, but one of the wings is putting in all of the work and the other is not. It's more like a paraglider, to be honest. And I'm not sure I'm down with that, to be honest. I mean, we've said before about the gender politics being old-fashioned, but now the more I think about it, the more I frame Franxx as a fairy tale. I mean, they've gone to a castle for fuck's... Oh, fuck it, I'm done. I can't do this. I can't fucking do this. Right, no, that's it. Look, I'll just save it for another time and see how the show develops, and hopefully it doesn't turn out to literally be a modern retelling of fucking Beauty and the Beast. I mean, I fucking swear, if Alpha 9 turns out to be the Gaston of this show, I am done. And I will leave it there, folks. Thank you very much for listening. Fuck my life.
Well, if they are leaning into, an Ikuhara kind of influence, Ikuhara loves fairy tales, loves theater. There's always a fable or fairy tale or something like that. Like I mentioned about Yorikuma Arashi, like that is the backdrop for his anime. So maybe in the words of Emily Rand, they watched Yorikuma and got all the bad parts.
Or just made it really old-fashioned. I mean, like I was about to say before I realised about the castle thing, the whole problem with it being a fairy tale is much like the gender politics. It's very old-fashioned for a very modern thing, and I don't know if there's a place for that anymore, to be honest, in, modern fiction, modern anime, modern anything.
Oh, there's definitely ways to do it.
Not like this, though.
No, it's not being done super well here.
Right.
But before we go, I just wanted to give a quick shout out to a couple of folks who left comments on our YouTube channel. Yes, you too can find us on YouTube if you search for Warui Deshou, WARUI DESHOU, and subscribe to our channel and, harangue us, tell us how wrong we are, all that sort of stuff below our videos. So
post some spicy memes there while you're at it.
I have to apologize to Miriam L here, who says, this is comments on our previous episode that was talking about Franxx 12. I listened to the first few minutes of this episode to see if I felt like watching more Franxx. I think I will, since I like this podcast. I'm sorry, Miriam.
What have we done? We have fucked up so royally. Like, God. What next? Are we going to end up reviewing the producers and saying that Springtime for Hitler was the best part of it because it was actually a serious depiction of Nazi Germany? What is wrong with us? But thank you anyway, Mariam, for comments there. No, in all seriousness, like, you know what? Like, it's like I've said before. If you take genuine enjoyment out of this show for whatever reason, then that's good. And if we've actually inspired you to get some of that out there, then that actually really, really makes me very happy. So thank you for that. That means a lot. Thank you.
Dead Hand also says that 02 reminds them of a mix between Anemone from Eureka 7 and Lum for Urusei Yatsura. It's very uncanny. I agree, and I know those references are lost on Porshadon, but yeah, I think both visually and in terms of one being meshing together those different personalities, like, absolutely. I think that's a spot on observation. Let me look up one more thing. Okay. Also on Twitter at Warui Deshou, you can tweet us. Yukinon.
Hey, good old Yuki.
Yeah.
Yuki's cool.
Very much so. They've a fairly new listener, I think. And they say that they really enjoyed the 12th episode podcast discussion, that we pointed out a lot of stuff that she didn't, or sorry, pointed out a lot of stuff they didn't notice while watching. I did appreciate them digging into the little details this time around. I couldn't be bothered to look them up myself. Well, that's us. Deep diving for morsels that no one else cares about to look for.
You can't see it right now, but I've totally got an electron microscope hooked up to my TV, so I can actually see, like, the individual pixels that are on each frame. I want to see all of that in, like, ultra 200k definition. Spent a lot of money on this. No expenses spared for this podcast, folks, as opposed to, like, the fact I really to upgrade my microphone. But no, thank you for that, Yukinon. And I have to say, though, again, like, we don't, when we do this podcast, try to speak what we think is the objective truth, just our opinions. And everyone is welcome to disagree with them. I mean, certainly I've made statements on this and things I probably shouldn't have done, or, that I don't, that aren't necessarily accurate. This is, after all, just a week-on-week thing. But as long as you're listening, enjoying it, engaging with it, we're always happy to have that. And I'm always happy to hear disagreements as much as I'm agreements as well. Like, if you've got a different perspective on it, then fire it my way. Like, that's the joy of art, that people can interpret things differently. I mean, there are some things that you, of course, can't. Like, if anyone starts, for example, saying that Ichigo's hair is gold and starts repeating that old dress meme, I'm going to find you. So don't do that. But otherwise, yeah, throw stuff our way. Tell us, let's get debate and discussion going about what's going on and why things are the way they are. Always happy to hear it, folks.
That is, and if people want to directly discuss with you rather than the show accounts, how would they do that? How would they track you down on the internet?
Well, you can find me at various pubs and clubs in Manchester, probably, arse over tea kettle, drunk out of my face. Oh wait, this is the internet. Oh, bugger.
The internet.
I was trying to wheedle out some free drinks from people. God damn it, Doc. But you may find me at Shaded1010 on Twitter. I recently passed 500 followers for the first time, so clearly some people don't know what they're doing.
Woo-hoo.
The fuck are they doing wasting their time listening to me? But you can find me there. You can find me on curiouscat.me/shaded. If you want to ask me, questions on various things like the absence of my hair, the presence of my beard, why my forehead is so big, all that sort of stuff. You can go in about anything you want. That's where you may find me, folks.
And I am at The Subtle Doctor on Twitter and curiouscat.me/thesubtledoctor. And, about a year and a half ago, I made the decision that I did not need to copiously keep up with a database of anime that I had watched or was watching. Thought, no, there's really no need to do this. And pretty shortly after I made that decision, I'd say, I started regretting it, and the regret only snowballed. And if you've listened to this podcast for any length of time, my memory is utter shite. And so, because of that, I have resuscitated the Mao. I have performed Necro Rise upon it. I've given it the Cura 3 spell post-revive. It is full-on functioning and as best as I can muster up to date. So if you'd like to look me up on my anime list, you can search for The Subtle Doctor, no spaces, and find me there if you'd like to know my entirely true and objective opinions.
The Word of God.
Oh, exactly. Yes. The Word of God on all the shows that I have seen. Please feel free to do so.
You could disagree with Doc on this, but you'd be wrong. Don't be wrong. Nah, I'm kidding. Go right.
You can scream into the night and cry and gnash your teeth and scratch the walls and kick, but the number shall remain what the number is.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, for Shadon, I'm the Subtle Doctor. Thank you all so much for listening this week. As ever, if you are new, we welcome you. If you are a longtime listener, thanks for sticking with us, and we will be coming back at you next week with more Darling in the Franxx. We've got other episodes that are either in the editing hopper or soon to be recorded, and check the Twitter feed for details on those. Everyone, until next time, embrace each other until the ends of the universe.